Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to the Eat for Endurance podcast. I'm Claire Schornstein, a sports dietitian and endurance athlete, and today I have one more bonus episode before getting back to my usual long-form episodes, and this is actually something I've been meaning to record for a while now. I get a lot of questions from podcast listeners, Instagram followers, and people who reach out through my website with questions like, who is one-to-one nutrition coaching actually for? And how long do people work with me? Whether you need to be training for a race, what it costs, whether you can just do a session or two, that kind of stuff. So I really wanted to create a single place where I can walk you through what my coaching process is actually like, what my general nutrition philosophy is, as well as the different ways you can work with me so you can decide whether any of it feels like a good fit for you. Or maybe you're just curious what this all looks like. This episode is a little bit more of a behind the scenes than my usual content. But, I talk so frequently about working with dietitians on this show, whether I'm literally talking to another dietitian or I'm talking to one of my athletes. And so I just wanted you to understand what nutrition coaching with a sports dietitian actually looks like in real life, or at least what it looks like to work with me. So real quick announcement before I dive into this. If you happen to be listening to this episode between January 1st and 3rd, I have a really big New Year's sale happening right now. Everything I sell, except for one-to-one nutrition coaching services, is 50% off. So all my master classes, mini guides, my discounted bundles of classes and mini guides, which are like already discounted. So it's super discounted now. My sports nutrition course, Peak Performance, and even my membership, Fuel for Life Crew, is half off with code JAN50. So that's all caps, JAN 50. And you can snag these deals for 3 days only, January 1st through 3rd, over at eatforendurance.com. So get them while you can. It's a really great deal. You get so much content for super cheap. All right, so let's dive into today's topic. So first, I just wanted to quickly share my background. If you've been here a while, you may already know a little bit about me, but if you're a newer listener, I've been a registered dietitian for over 11 years now. I have been working with athletes for most of that time through my own business, Eat for Endurance, and also through other private practices. I did do a lot of in-person work back in the day when I was in New York City. I don't do that anymore. I'm in my mid-40s right now, and I came into the dietetics field a little bit late because I changed careers when I turned 30. That's when I went back to grad school to get a second bachelor's degree and a second master's degree as part of NYU's clinical nutrition program. Before that, I worked in large international law firms in both New York and London, New York City to be specific, and learned that that is definitely not the environment for me. Not really where I was very happy, not my happy place. I'm also a board certified sports dietitian. That's that CSSD credential after my name, which just means that I've accrued literally thousands of documented hours of sports nutrition experience. Plus, I've taken a national board exam in sports nutrition, which I need to retake every 5 years along with all of those thousands of hours, reproving that I am still doing this. So it's not nothing. Those are not just letters or a piece of paper. It's a big undertaking. And I'm a longtime athlete myself, starting out as a runner in high school and discovering marathons and ultramarathons in my 20s and 30s, respectively. If you're curious to hear a little bit more about my story, including, my past as a classical oboist, I have quite the eclectic background, or when I quit my job in New York City and traveled all around South America and way more, I did do a solo episode on this show a while back. I don't even remember how many years now. I didn't look up the episode, but it's there. It's like my nutrition story or something like that. And I've shared a lot about my story in other podcasts, such as For the Long Run, I'll Have Another, Trail Society, and others. So you guys can go check those out if you're interested. But that's enough about me for today. Let's chat about who I work with. So I work with teenage and adult athletes of all abilities and genders. I think the youngest client I've accepted is 12, maybe 11. And the oldest was almost 90. Actually, she may have been 90. That was a long time ago. But most of my clients are somewhere in the middle. Those are kind of like the outer edges. I'd say, I get a lot of collegiate athletes. I do get high schoolers. I get a lot of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. I'd say that's like the majority of my clients. But I love working with everybody. So I'm not one of those dietitians that only works with women or only works with masters athletes. I do work with all kinds of people, and I find that very interesting and fun. And I want to highlight the word athlete for a minute. Sometimes, I use that word in my content, and sometimes I say active person or busy active person. And, I know that some people do not necessarily identify or call themselves an athlete. But here's the thing. You may not call yourself an athlete, but if you are intentionally moving your body for exercise, I am going to call you an athlete. I specialize in endurance sports, so road runners, trail and ultra runners, cyclists, triathletes, all that stuff. But I also work with team sports, climbing, winter sports, hiking, swimming, strength training, and support all kinds of active humans who want to feel and perform better and stop overthinking food. I will say that many of my clients are runners because people are generally attracted to working with someone who gets their sport, which I get, that's understandable. But I can work and have worked and I'm trained to work with all kinds of sports. So just wanted to put that out there. Many of my clients have big events on their calendars and are highly competitive, whatever sport they're doing, whether it's a 100-miler or a marathon or an Ironman or whatever, right? But equally, I have tons of clients who are recreationally active in many different ways and they are not training for an event. Or maybe you typically are training an event and you're taking a break to kind of focus on other things. But, I have people who are just, they love to do the Peloton or they love to do classes at the gym or they kind of just run for fun or whatever else. I mean, hopefully we're all running for fun, but you know what I mean. Really, the only prerequisite to working with me is that you're an active person in some way, shape, or form. That doesn't mean necessarily that you're like elite or competitive. It just means movement is part of your life in some way. And I only say that because sometimes, I'll get a purely clinical client like this person has type 2 diabetes and needs nutrition therapy. And I typically am not taking those cases unless it's also in conjunction with somebody who is also active and that's part of their life. So there is kind of a way more clinical side to things where people are not very active or, exercise is not really part of their life. And I will usually send them more to like an outpatient clinical dietitian if that's like truly like what they're working on. But really the thing to keep in mind here, athletes are obviously still human beings. That's why I take a very holistic approach to working with my one-to-one clients. And I am clinically trained. I want to just make that clear. So we don't just talk about what to eat before a training session and how many gels you're going to take during a long run. I'm also looking at your medical and diet history and medications, supplements, training background, your relationship with food, as well as any disordered eating or eating disorder history, your relationship to exercise. What is your daily schedule, your family responsibilities, work, other life details. I like to call that your quote life landscape. If you ever do like a new client call with me, I'll say that phrase, life landscape. Because it's important for me to be able to make meaningful recommendations for you, right? We discuss what your short and long-term goals are, as well as your current challenges. We capture all of movement in your day, so not just formal workouts. So also, are you bike commuting to work? Are you walking your dog? Like what else is going on? Is your job really physical? Are you on your feet all day? That helps us assess your total energy needs. So we're really like zooming out to understand the full picture of what's happening, but we're also diving really deep into each area to capture all those details. And so we're kind of always juggling those two views of things. Sometimes my clients do have chronic diseases to manage, whether it's like high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I've had a client with ulcerative colitis and had an ostomy bag. I mean, like we're working with all kinds of different things. And so we do have to consider that when working on daily nutrition. Of course, that impacts nutrition needs. We may also be collaborating with other professionals on your team, like a physician, a therapist, coach, et cetera. So I do really like to take a collaborative approach. I'm always happy to collaborate with other people on your team. And, my clients follow many different diets, ranging from vegan to omnivores and everything in between. Sometimes they have allergies like celiac or intolerances with lactose or whatever else, other food preferences, restrictions that we are working with. Personally, I eat just about everything. I have things I prefer not to eat, like shellfish. I just don't like it. I used to be allergic. Apparently I'm not now, strangely, but anyways, tangent. But I feel comfortable and trained to work with a wide variety of diets. Being vegan and vegetarian, obviously, it takes a lot more intention to do well and may require some supplementation in certain cases, especially as an athlete. But I will always support your dietary preferences unless it's part of an eating disorder or other harmful behavior. And if I see kind of red flags, I'm going to investigate those things. But again, I'm not one of those athletes that's like, I only work in with plant-based people or anything like that. I work with a lot of different people. I want to kind of point out that I accept a limited number of one-to-one clients at any one time because one-to-one coaching is my top tier service. And I really want to give you the attention and time that you need to make meaningful and sustainable change, not to be stretched so thin that I cannot provide you with the elite service I'm trying to provide. So that means I really want to make sure that we're a good fit. and that you trust me to support you, that I feel confident working on the challenges you present. I will say that I will never accept a client that I don't feel confident working with. So just really want to make that clear. So I have potential clients fill out a new client inquiry form on my website. That gives me a sense of who you are and why you're reaching out. Allows me to screen clients. I've been a dietitian for over 11 years. I'm not just accepting anyone who walks into my virtual door. And once I read that and feel like you might be a good match, I send a link for you to book a free discovery call. And this is really our chance to interview one another because you're interviewing me, but believe me, I'm interviewing you too. No pressure, I promise. But again, I just want to make sure we're a really good fit so we can get the most out of this experience together. And that's really your chance to answer, to ask any questions you might have about the coaching process. And obviously, we can't get to know each other in 10 minutes, but you can really tell a lot about someone's personality and energy in that time. So again, that goes both ways. So what does one-to-one coaching actually look like at Eat for Endurance? So again, I don't know what other dietitians do, or maybe I have a sense some of my colleagues, because, I chat with some colleagues, but I'm really just talking about my own practice. I think there's a lot of similarities with other dietitians, but I want to be clear that this is really just what goes on in my own practice. So if I had to summarize it, and I'd say this is pretty broad and general, so it probably does apply to most one-to-one nutrition coaching programs, but one-to-one coaching is all about removing guesswork, personalizing nutrition, all of that to you in your life right now in this season of life, and teaching you how to really evolve and adjust as things change. And it's really just giving you kind of ongoing support while you build these habits and helping them really stick, because obviously if something isn't sustainable, then what's the point? Like, you may as well just go do a diet. So, yeah. And before I get further into that though, I thought it would be helpful to understand some logistics behind coaching. So everything we do happens inside a HIPAA compliant platform that I use called Practice Better. Some dietitians use different ones, like there's Healthy and there are other ones as well. But yeah, I use Practice Better. I really like it. And that's where we do our Zoom calls, messaging, or chat, journal review, resource sharing, everything lives in one place. There's also an app so you can access it on the go, which is really nice. And in my programs, I'll talk about that in a bit. I see clients in session, so those live Zoom calls every other week. And we do work in between those sessions via chat to continue the support and help you stay accountable. The first session is pretty long, it's a lot longer. And then as we, have more to cover, and I really don't like to rush my clients. And then sessions gradually get shorter as we build momentum and just don't need to be on the call quite as long. And when you sign up for one-to-one coaching, I send a very detailed questionnaire. We do a lot of, I do a thorough review of that form ahead of our first session so that we can really dive right in and get to work when we begin. And, we spend in that first session, we spend that time really filling in any gaps that I see in your form. So if something's not clear or, I just need to get more information, I just really want to get a better understanding of your nutrition history, your day-to-day life, both food and non-food related. So I'm asking about sleep and stress and just all the things. And what it really comes down to, especially in that first session, is my clients have a story to share, right? Much like when I do interviews with athletes, they're sharing their story. And so I really want to get the story of my client. And my goal is to get a really good understanding of you as a whole person in that first session. And a lot of that's already coming through the form, but then we're kind of putting it all to life and you're filling me in on all the details. And by the end of that session, I should have a really solid understanding of who you are and what your goals are and where are the challenges, where are the gaps, all that stuff. I always ask what a typical day of eating looks like and provide feedback on the spot. We sometimes do lab work analysis, or maybe I'm telling you, hey, you haven't gotten any labs in a while. Let's go do that. I assess what your nutrition knowledge is like, so I know where you're starting at and what resources I need to provide. I also want to understand how you learn best. I offer a lot of the same information in multiple formats, whether it's podcast, blog, handout, video, all that stuff. And that way you can choose what fits your schedule and your learning preference. So you're not kind of pigeonholed into oh God, I have to read this super long thing. And I don't like to read super long things. And then I always finish up each session sending you a list of specific goals that we set together based on what we worked on that day. So you have a really actionable list of things that you can work on. And ultimately what happens in session time, it really differs from one client to the next, obviously, because it depends on what the client needs in that session and what's going on. But that what I just described, that's often, a lot of what I cover. And then just to kind of wrap it up, more generally speaking, coaching often includes things like, personalized meal and snack ideas that take into account your food preferences and needs. So you're not like wondering what to eat. I'm not going to write a whole, like, this is what you're going to eat for the next week meal plan. That's not what I do. That's not what most dietitians do. But of course, there's some hand holding, and I'm giving you suggestions and not just like sending you on your way and be like, figure it out. Obviously not. I'm going to provide fueling recommendations for before, during, and after exercise. And if it's relevant, a race nutrition plan. We'll build that eventually, depending on when that's happening in our program. I'll do food journal review. That's usually after the first session, and then as needed after that. And that's really to help me identify nutrition gaps and other issues that we need to work on. Also, it helps me assess improvement. And so, like, how are things going? And we can kind of spot check. I'm giving you lots of nutrition handouts and resources that's really based on what we cover and where I feel like you need to work on. Again, blood work interpretation. Maybe we're even ordering that because I can order it if we can't get it through your physician. We're reviewing your supplements, and I'm making recommendations based on your history and your goals. We have the option to do gut microbiome testing and interpretation if GI issues are part of the picture. That's kind of the GI map stool test. And that's not included in the pricing, so that's an extra fee. And again, supporting with body image, any other body or food struggles, in collaboration with other professionals in your team. And then really, I'd say most importantly, hopefully if you guys have been here a while, you know that I care deeply about a lot of things, and I really care deeply as a client about my clients. So you're really getting a sports dietitian that is really invested in you and your progress. This is not like a cookie cutter plan. It's an ongoing conversation, and I am really here to support you. We're celebrating your wins, no matter how small they are. I'm really here to support you, to empathize with you when you're struggling, because it's not easy. It's really hard sometimes. Nutrition coaching, honestly, can be a bit of a roller coaster, depending on what we're working on. And you really want to be working with someone who is compassionate, but who can also provide some tough love when it's called for. And believe me, I've dished out some tough love. So that's what I aim to do. In terms of structure, I offer both 3 and 6 month coaching programs because, people come in with very different needs. And so we're trying to kind of match that to the timing of a program. I used to offer single sessions, but a session or two is just not going to cut it for most people, especially if we're dealing with complex issues. Occasionally, I'll do a couple sessions with someone who just wants to, work on one specific thing, but I'm very clear on the limitations of that, and I do not offer that to everybody. The 3-month program, that's usually best for people who have a fairly solid foundation already, but want structure, guidance, accountability. Often these are the folks who are like, I know what to do, or I know what I should be doing. I just need help actually doing it. Or maybe you don't know what you should be doing, but you're super motivated to do the work. You're ready to make changes, like you are ready to dive in. And typically in that first month, we're focusing on just becoming more aware of what's going on. I'm doing a lot of investigating. We're working on kind of nutrition foundations, doing a lot of what I described earlier. So, we're diving into your current patterns. We're identifying those nutrition gaps and lifestyle habits that might be holding you back. And we're making a lot of small but very impactful changes that match what you feel ready and able to do. So it's all about kind of meeting you where you're at. In month 2, we're continuing to implement these basics and adjusting based on what's coming up for you. We're fine tuning things like, fueling timing and hydration and supplements if relevant, troubleshooting any barriers that are popping up in real life because, it can be really challenging to develop new fueling habits and to fit them into a busy life. And then by month 3, maybe some of those initial short-term goals are met or soon will be. We're addressing any new challenges or goals that have come up because things don't always go as planned. And sometimes something happens that we don't predict. Or maybe you have goals and you're like, oh, wait, actually, I want to work on this instead. That happens. We're talking through how to stay consistent long-term. We're creating a very clear plan for what's to come next, whether that's continuing together or implementing what you learned on your own. And this program, again, is very collaborative. I'm constantly adjusting things based on your feedback. So open, honest communication between us is essential. If you kind of sign up for this and you like the idea of coaching, but then you kind of are ghosting me the entire time, it's just not fun for either one of us. You're not going to get out of it what you wanted to get out of it. And I'm just not going to really be able to help you the way that I should be able to help you, right? So really important that we communicate. And just a quick note about session time. I try to save most nutrition education for between sessions. That's why I have so many resources for you to explore in your own time. And then you can bring questions to me. And of course, we can personalize everything to you. But I don't want to be spending too much of our precious coaching time on teaching you what foods have carbs. And, I really want to be spending that time troubleshooting your current challenges and going over other issues that require more in-depth discussion. The, excuse me, the 6-month program, that's for people who want to or need to go deeper, or who have multiple short and long-term goals that require more time to work on. And these clients may have more complex challenges, such as like low energy availability or REDS and all the symptoms and health consequences that go along with that. Maybe they have chronic GI issues that might be tied to REDS or not. Longstanding mindset challenges around food and body image. Maybe it's disordered eating or eating disorders. We might have nutrient deficiencies. Or maybe they just need more time to figure out how to fuel themselves in the context of their unique and busy lives. Like sometimes people just need more time to figure out all out and implement and be ready and all that. Complex issues, they really just cannot be solved in such a short period of time. So for instance, if someone comes to me with chronic underfueling and they have nutrient deficiencies and gut issues, no period and other symptoms, this really does take time and patience to correct. And we can get so much done in 3 months, but it usually takes longer. And clients with these challenges, they often do choose to do a 3-month program with me because I get it. 6 months is a huge commitment, time commitment, financial commitment. And then they realize that they need more time and they add on additional months until they're ready to go off on their own. So you don't have to do a 6-month program if you have these issues, but it is cheaper per month if you do. And it does give you an appropriate amount of time to devote to these more complex cases. And I hope it goes without saying that obviously if you choose 6 months, doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means you would benefit from the opportunity to work more slowly, more thoughtfully on the things that are presenting. And in terms of what we do, it's all very similar to the 3-month program in terms of, working on the foundations and really setting the stage for some of the deeper work that we're doing. We might do additional testing as needed to kind of identify some of the root causes of nutrient deficiencies or gut issues. There are just so many different things that we might be doing in this time. If you do the gut testing, we might be putting a protocol in place, diet and supplements. So yeah, lots of different things. If maybe you're working on gut training and prepping for a really big race and you just want more time to do that. So kind of as the program progresses, we're building confidence, you're learning to trust your body more, you're feeling less anxious about food and fueling, and you're better understanding how you can support yourself to train and recover well. But again, like all this really depends on the client. And by the final month, we're looking ahead, much like in that 3-month program, to see, where things are going. Do we need more time? Hopefully by this point, we should see a significant improvement, assuming you put the work in. And, we're really creating that long-term plan that fits your life, but can evolve as your goals change. So that's really kind of what I wanted to say about the 3 versus the 6-month program. And I'd say the thing to remember, again, with more complex issues, sometimes it takes more investigation and experimentation to figure things out, and the body just needs more time to respond to the changes we're making. And if we ever feel stuck, I actually belong to a practice group of colleagues who can give me feedback and fresh insight into a tough case, because any single practitioner who tries to tell you that they have all the answers all the time is lying, in my opinion. I will always be honest with you. If I don't know something, I will do my best to learn and research it. So please know that if I don't feel confident working with you, I've already said this already, I will not accept you as a client. And then if I don't know something when we're working together, I will find out and get support, because again, coaches need coaches, right? And then, if the 3 or 6 month structure, if that doesn't feel quite right for you, I do custom programs for people that better suit timeline and goals. And then as mentioned, we can always add a 1-month add-on, and you can do single sessions. So there's a lot of flexibility here. The goal really is to meet you where you are. As for pricing, one-on-one coaching is my highest level of service. It's the most demanding of my time and my expertise, and the cost reflects that. So I don't list all my pricing on my website because it does vary based on the length of the program, but we talk through all that very transparently during a discovery call. When you book a free discovery call, you'll get an email with all my rates and everything. And I will say my rate currently starts at $6.99 per month, just so you can get a sense of the financial commitment, as I don't want you to feel blindsided by the cost. Like, oh, this all sounds amazing. And then you get the email like, oh my God. So that is my starting rate, that's $6.99. And my goal is always to help you find an option that feels realistic and sustainable for you. And that's also why I offer my membership, Fuel for Life Crew. That's where you can also get direct access to me, very different, but for just $39 a month, not $6.99 and up. And then I also have a wide range of low cost and free resources. So even if one-to-one coaching is not in your budget, I really don't want that to stop you from getting nutrition support. And I'll talk about my membership shortly. So stick around for that. So what happens once a coaching program is over? So as we're nearing the end of a 3 or 6 month program, we assess where you're at, what you feel comfortable doing. Some people are adding an additional month. Some people are booking single sessions. I do offer a la carte sessions to existing clients. Some transition into my membership for ongoing support, and some are just totally ready to go off on their own. And if I have not, this is how I know I've done my job. You guys would, my clients are like, okay, cool. I have all these tools. I know what to do. I know how to adjust. And it doesn't mean they may not come back for help in the future. Sometimes I get return clients like, hey, I just need to check in and tweak these things. But you should have the tools to kind of go off and do it on your own. I am so stoked when someone's like, I'm good. I feel great. I know what to do. And they fly away. So that's really great. And then no matter what you choose, you don't lose access to anything and practice better. You always have that as a resource. And you don't have chat support anymore, but I love getting updates from clients. So I always ask clients to keep me updated, to always say hi in the chat if they feel like it. So yeah, I'm here and I'm always here from you. And I love supporting you even when we're no longer working together. I thought it might actually be helpful to describe some transformations I've witnessed recently in my clients who have worked with me for 3 months or more. I, of course, help many clients reach race goals, get PRs, all that stuff, which is awesome. But the changes I see go far beyond that. So again, I just don't want you to feel like, oh, as a sports dietitian, all I do is help people finish races and, crush their PRs, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I do that, and that's great. But again, athletes are humans too. So clients often report more consistent energy in their daily life, which is a huge one, right? Fewer GI issues during and outside of exercise, better recovery, improved training quality, less anxiety and stress around food. That's so huge. A much more trusting relationship with their body, and so many more things. And so here's an example. So I'm currently working with a male marathon runner who came to me with a stress fracture and history of being underweight. And we gradually increased how much he ate each day, especially his carbohydrate, as he was dramatically underfueling, and changed how he was eating surrounding workouts. And literally, I kid you not, within just 1 week, he was starting to feel like a different person. So eating more isn't always easy for him. He still sometimes struggles with body image, negative thoughts, because his body's changing. But it's really improving through our work together and also with the help of his therapist. His stress around food has gone down greatly, which has had a positive impact on his marriage. He was telling me about some things his wife was saying, and that really made me happy. His injuries healed. His workouts are feeling awesome. His sleep has improved. He can enjoy a croissant without spiraling or restricting later. And just the difference between where he's at now and where he was just 3 months ago, it's really astounding. So we really get some amazing work done. Here's another one. A mom of 3 young kids who's a swimmer and also enjoys classes at the gym. She came to me feeling depleted with excessive hair loss, sluggish thyroid, and other nutrient deficiencies, severe period symptoms, and GI issues. And we did a gut protocol after running a stool test, which resulted in improved lab work, including an amazing increase in ferritin. I was so proud of her ferritin. Better bowel movements. She literally was like, I've had the best bowel movement of my life. I kid you not, in the chat. And she didn't hear me say that and laugh. Her acne's gone. So that she had a lot of acne that disappeared. She isn't losing a ton of hair anymore, which is pretty cool. She feels less inflamed and all her major period symptoms are gone. We're still working on a few things. I'm not trying to say everything is perfect, but she's come such a long way. And lastly, a recreationally active woman came to me with high stress around food and low energy. We worked on evening out her intake to get rid of her restrict binge cycle. And we added carbs plus more fruits and veg to her diet, get more fiber in, and the urge to overeat at night went away. She shared, this was a really big moment. She shared how she was able to go out to dinner with a friend and actually be present with her friend rather than obsess over food from anxiety and extreme hunger. And she was able to stop eating when she was full. And that was a really, really meaningful moment for her. I could share dozens more examples, but the point is that change takes persistence and patience. And I just want you to remember every journey is unique. It is usually not linear, almost always not linear. And the goal is really to build a plan that is flexible and that actually supports your life and your goals, especially as those things change. Now, if one-to-one coaching is not for you, I do offer my monthly membership, Fuel for Life Crew, which I opened up 1 year ago. and has been so fun. Such a great group. This group is best for people who want guidance, education, and support, but don't need fully individualized coaching. It's only $39 a month and functions like small group coaching, which is really cool, but without kind of like the structure. So I'm not like, you know how small group coaching is sometimes like, this week we have this lecture and next week we have this topic. It's much more fluid. So members get monthly live calls, which sometimes is just like an informal Q&A and sometimes they're doing a presentation. You get all past and future masterclasses and downloads, which is really awesome. I have 7 right now. You get direct access to me via our private Slack channel to ask any questions as they come up. I'm pretty responsive on there. I'm covering a wide range of topics in my masterclasses. You can actually check all of them out on my website, eatforendurance.com. And right now, I'm planning to add a new one once per quarter. And you even get to vote as a group, like what I cover next. That's pretty cool. So it's a really nice way to get a feel of my coaching style. Like, let's say you want to work with me, but you're not really sure and you want to try something out that's super low commitment and low cost. You can pop in there and kind of just get a sense for things. You get your nutrition questions answered. You can learn from all the resources I offer, and you get community support, all for a low price. And it's nice. You don't have to commit to more than 1 month, but you can do the 3, 6, and 12-month options if you'd like a little discount. And as for who's in the group, it's constantly changing. People kind of hop in and out. I have kind of my core members that stick around, but a lot of people come for a few months and go. But currently it's a small and diverse group of active people across all different sports, ages, and genders and locations. It's usually ranging between 15 and 20 people at any given time. And we're sharing, weekly wins, favorite recipes, race plans, so we can cheer each other on. And I always like to share anytime I find an interesting article or podcast or a new product that I think the group might enjoy. And of course, everyone drops their random questions into the relevant channels, whether it's about performance fueling or gut issues or whatever else. One thing to note, I obviously have to draw a line with how I answer certain questions because this is not one-to-one coaching for $39 a month. So for example, I cannot interpret your blood work, but I can talk more generally about why iron may be low. So if you're like, this is my ferritin, blah, 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 I'm not really gonna be able to comment on that, but we can talk more generally about that as just, an issue. So that's just something to keep in mind. You cannot use this as a substitute for one-to-one coaching, but you certainly can get a lot out of the group. And many people do, join and they're able to kind of use my resources and individualize it to them. It's actually a great way. I've had clients do this where they start there and do so much learning and then they do one-to-one coaching. And then we are starting from such a higher level and we get so much more done. Other people hop in after one-to-one coaching because they just like to have the support, but it's obviously way more affordable. That is my membership. And you can go check that out at my website if you want to learn more, including lots of testimonials. So that's what I have for all of you today. I hope pulling back the curtain a bit on how I work with my one-to-one clients and Fuel for Life crew members has been helpful. You can find links to absolutely everything I mentioned in the show notes or on my website, eatforendurance.com. And if you're interested in working together, head over there, fill out a new client inquiry form, or click the link to join my crew. And don't forget, if you are listening between January 1st and January 3rd, I am giving you 50% off all my resources, including my masterclasses, downloads, course, my bundles, even the first month in my membership, Fuel for Life crew, when you use code JAN50, that's JAN in caps 50. Head over to eatforendurance.com for all the details. All right, guys, again, happy New Year. I hope you had a wonderful holiday. Thank you for listening. I will see you very soon for my next episode later this month, where I will be returning to my usual athlete and RD interviews. All right, see you next time.